Alrighty, welcome back. All right, just for the fun of it, I figured I'd just show, I might have shown this before, but I'll do it again, how I weather rolling stock. Now this is just, I will call this the fleet weathering. I'm not worried about uber details, being an RPM super child. I just want to get them weathered, subdued a little bit, get the wheels painted, get the trucks weathered up, get the bodies weathered a little bit, just so they're not so nice and shiny. So I got 4 victims here. I'll show you how I do these. What I normally do is I take the trucks off. And in the case of the 2 on the left, the D&H and the C&W car, they're Katy cars. So their trucks are a little bit different. I'm sure you're familiar with the Katys, and I don't like to take the wheels out of the side frames. It's just annoying. On the other 2 cars, and one's an Intermountain, and actually they might both be Intermountain. I'm not totally sure. What I will do is take the wheels out, put them in a wheel jig. You can see the bottom one there is broken. Then I'll put the trucks on these little skewers. And very simply, what I'm going to do is take everything out to the garage. I don't use the airbrush for this. I will for the later steps. But for this, I'm just going to go out, blast the wheels, blast the side frames, and then hit the underframes of the cars. Because that you don't really see, and it's just so much faster to take to the garage, go to my recycle bin paint booth, and get the underframes darkened up. I use grimy black, Vallejo Hobby Spray. Actually, it's Panzer Gray, and then I'll squirt a little bit of Vallejo Hobby Spray German Field Gray. Now, some of it comes up over the side a little bit. That's fine. The thing is, I'm noticing that those paints tend to be a little bit stipply. And if you're trying to put the fine, a little bit of dirt up on the side, I like to use an airbrush for that. So I will come back and use an airbrush in all these. Not exactly sure how far I'm going to take them. Some cars are really, really weathered. Some cars look pretty darn good. Some cars really just need like a flat coat to flatten it. And maybe a little bit of dust along the bottom. And it's amazing. You think some cars look like they're trash. And some cars are like, wow, that looks like it's a freaking model kit. Anyway, but for example, this Katy car is way too shiny. It almost looks, glossy. See, you kind of reflect in there. The other ones aren't quite as shiny, but again, they need to be toned down a touch. So we'll do that. When I get this batch done, again, it doesn't take long to dry. It'll all go right back out with these trucks. I'm going to leave them all together. I'll pop them on a skewer, take them out, paint them, and then I'll have to clean the wheels a little bit, but such is life. All right, so that's the initial phase of the disassembly, and I like to have a little pad in the back where I kind of keep the individual cars, their trucks, their wheels. And on the Katy ones, they have those wonky little inserts, so I like to keep them all together, just so I don't get things mixed up. So, okay. Let's get these out to the garage and spray painted. Okay, here we are in the garage in the high-tech waste management recycle bin paint booth. And all I'm using now are the Vallejo Hobby Spray Panzer Gray and German Field Gray. They're good colors. This is basically a grimy black. This is kind of a dark, dirty, dusty color. And what I'll do is I'll spritz the side frames with a little bit of both. I'll start with the grimy black, I'll call it, and then I'll just do some highlights with the Panzer Gray. And to me, that's fine. I'll do one side, turn them on a skewer, do the other side, done. Again, some people go nuts on this stuff, but really, once you get them all done on the layout, and if you're actually an operator, as long as things are, kind of weathered down and subdued, no one's going to really notice. Again, I'm not doing this to be, Joe Superman or have this stuff be praised by everyone on the internet. I'm just trying to get the things weathered. The wheels, they're down there. Same thing. They've got a shot of the grimy black. I might hit them with a little bit of the Panzer Gray to give them that subdued, dirty look. Now, you can come back if you want to make them a little bit more rusty. You can, and sometimes I do that. So now what I'm going to do is just take both of these, spray along the underframe, turn them over, spray just from the other side. Again, you might get a little bit of carryover onto the very bottom, but that's okay. And then get the other 2 cars over there. If there's any overspray that goes on the roof of the other car, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's basically it. Quick, easy, get it done. Then we'll get them downstairs and we'll proceed with the next step. Okay, phase 1 complete. Underframes are done. I also did a shot or 2 on the roof. You can see I have the side frames and wheels sitting back there. And I like to let these dry overnight. It dries fast. You know, those hobby sprays don't take long to dry at all. Especially like on the trucks and wheels, I'll slap those in and out and jam through a bunch of those. So now I do have the KD trucks ready to go out. Going to do the same thing. Hit them with some of the Panzer Gray. Little highlights with the German Field Gray. Now this will muck up the wheels a lot more. That's okay. I'll show you how I clean those later on. So that's it. So that's the first phase. Now on some of these cars, there was a little bit of overspray. It's probably hard to see with this cell phone camera and the really not too great light that I have here at the bench. I mean, I can see it. And in some cases, that might be fine. Maybe you just want to come in and not even worry about airbrushing it. Although, again, I tend to airbrush it to get the like a real light. If I want to fade things a lot more, come in with, you know, the airbrush and fade it. But you wouldn't have to. I mean, you could almost stop on some of these cars, maybe give it a flat finish. To kind of, you know, flatten everything, tone it all down, and boom, you're good to go. Slap the trucks on it and maybe weather the couplers a little bit, or, you know, a little bit of roof work. The roofs normally do need some work. I did hit the roofs again with a light pass of both colors, again, just to give it some, to tone it down a little bit, kind of get it flat, and then we'll work from there. So, all right, so that's phase 1 for these 4 cars. And I like to do, if possible, maybe 4, 6, 8 cars at a time. Only because when I then get the airbrush ready, you know, airbrushing, you guys know, is a lot more involved. You got to worry about getting the paints out, getting them thinned right, getting your compressor, the air pressure set, getting it in the booth, getting it turned on, blah, 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 and then cleaning the airbrush. And if you do a color change, you know, you got to do a quick clean, change color. So if I'm going to airbrush, I like to have a lot of cars ready to go. And then I'll have like a marathon session. And there's my, the 2 airbrushes that I'm tending to use most. Iwata Neo with a 0.5 millimeter needle. And this is an Iwata Revolution, which I think has a 0.35. Or I'd have to look. But I tend to use this one more for overall flat coats and whatnot. It doesn't seem quite as, I'm not sure it atomizes the paint quite as nice as this Iwata does, but I use this for more of the real fine, building things up slowly type of stuff. Although this works as well. It's just, I have to get used to it. And I'm by no means a professional airbrusher. I'm still fiddling along, but all right, enough babbling. Let's get the other KD wheels done and drying, and then let's see if I can pull out maybe 4 more cars to do. Okay, but snuck over here to the layout. Like I said, I'm getting fairly far along, at least what I call the fleet weathering. But I did take some cars that were shiny. You can see a lot of them are starting to look a little bit subdued. Some may need a little bit of minor touch-up here and there. And those 4 boxcars were sitting here. This is my weathering track. I got cars sitting there that are the next victims. So I came over here to pluck some of these poor dudes and bring them over and start weathering them. So you can see I got mostly some covered hoppers to get weathered up. That one Pennsy boxcar there, that roof looks a little bit too shiny. So that might need a little remedial trip to the weathering shop. The rest of the cars are fairly well weathered up. So it looks more like a, you know, late steam era railroad with the weathered stuff. Now, someone had mentioned in one of the videos, you know, shouldn't you do the inside of the hoppers? And absolutely, that's correct. On the ones that I do now, I do that. Here somewhere I've done the interior. That's a Rapido. I think that's an Intermountain. And you do them to different levels. That one's just, he's got some rust in them. That's just got a little bit of of the grimy black in there. Because again, they're usually at different levels of rustiness. So here's some, this is a row of the Rapido GLA cars that I've done. Some need to have a little bit more detail in the bottom. So I'd like to go in there and put some pigment, some leftover coal and whatnot. And then some of these in the back definitely need to be dusted out a little bit and then weathered up a touch on the inside. And that's okay, I'll get to it. Again, it's not urgent because a lot of these cars come in loaded, get unloaded and go back. But I do like to have them weathered up just in case you're going to pull out the loads and run it empty. So it looks a little bit more prototypical. All right, so now let's see. The next victims. I think I'm going to take these guys here. No, help me, no. All right, I'm going to take you and your sister here. Help me. All right, I'm going to leave. You know what? Heck with it. No, not Mr. Pennsy. Pennsy and New York Central, you guys belong together. All right, so those four, I'm going to take them over. Same thing, take the trucks off, get the wheel sets out, unless they're Katie cars, and give them the initial underframe shot, a bit of a roof shot, and then let them dry up, and we'll start doing the next step. So, okay, victims, let's go. All right, I remember, once I got these Central Soya cars here over the bench, I remember, not the issue I had with them, but these are Bowser cars. And you can see that actually the trucks are already done. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but they're already weathered on both cars. And I remember, because I went over, flipped them, took the screw off through the bolster. And for some reason, the bolster on these are flared. And the trucks don't want to come off without really, really yanking them. And I just don't feel like, breaking something. I remember it being a Royal PETA last time, so I said, okay, fine. I'm going to leave these two alone, and I'll airbrush them. If I want to go ahead and shoot the bottom a little bit, I'll just do it real carefully with an airbrush. So these aren't going to go out for the initial garage blast. So then I went over and I grabbed the other two covered hoppers who were trying to hide on me. No, don't take me. So I got those two ready to go. You can see they're Katie cars. This is another Bowser car. That's a Katie car. So those trucks, what I'll do is when I go out, I got the wheels down there for the one Bowser car, a set of the Katie trucks here, and these are the side frames for that other Bowser car. So I'll spray those. Again, it dries quick enough. I can pop those off, put the other truck sets on, get them all done at once. So I will have those four. Also, I'll have 8 cars through the initial garage phase, and then these two waiting. And then when I airbrush, I have 10 cars to airbrush. So that'll be a nice long airbrush session working on that. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go out and get this next batch of victims through the garage session. Okay, hoppers are done. And for those, all I did was use the German field gray. Because again, it's because of the color of them, I'm just not sure that going with that grimy black would have looked okay. It might have been fine. But again, I just want to show a little bit of dust and, dirt and whatnot on the underframe, but down by the bottom of the hoppers and the center sills and whatnot. Now, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll see how the Central Soya car goes, but I'm not sure I should have used this method on the covered hoppers. Got a bit more overspray on these, probably because I was trying to come a little bit higher and get the sides of the hoppers at the bottom. It might look okay. It's probably very hard to tell with this with this cell phone camera. The Bessemer car does look a little bit splotchy, especially over in here. I don't know if that's might be too much glare. I don't know if I can hold it. Maybe you can see it that way. The Pennsy car seems to look okay, but again, you gotta be, you're trying to spray up in here, and in the sides and everything. There's a lot more nooks and crannies on these cars that maybe they're better off being airbrushed. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And just an FYI, the same method, the garage method, I also do use on the underframe and trucks and wheels for locomotives. This is a Reading C630 You saw one in the layout if you looked at some previous videos. I liked it so much I bought another one. I have no reason having a C630. Anyway, I just liked them. So again, I took this all the way apart. Everything comes off, motor comes out, drop the trucks, take them apart, the wheels come out. I paint the wheels, and then I clean them very, very well. And then, again, same thing with the truck side frames and the fuel tank and underframe. If it comes off, I take them all out and paint them same way with the grimy black and the German field gray. Because it looks like, I mean, I looked at a lot of photos of locomotives. It looks like a good match for the underframe of the locomotives. It always seemed to get somewhat dirty. If I can't take these assemblies off, I'll just mask the motor, take it out, and very carefully, same thing, again, because I'm actually not worried too much about how this looks. I just want to get it subdued, and it's so much easier going to the garage. If I need to, I can always come back later, and I could always, airbrush some dust here and there if I want to. When I'm doing the body shell, I can come back in, and of course you can use some of the enamel fuel spills, make fuel spills and more packed in dirt if you want to. You can always kind of rust up the trucks a little bit if you want to. Although rust doesn't seem to be a real prevalent on locomotive trucks that I've seen. So that is, like I said, that's done. That's the underframe of it done. Just waiting to get my DCC sound conversion done. The body itself, I haven't done that. Now the body itself will be airbrushed, definitely. Now that I have the setup, but there's the body sitting there in its little container waiting. Hi guys. All right, so let's let these set up a little bit. Probably let them dry overnight, and then we'll go on to the next phase. I'll try to show that as much as possible, so we can continue on our fleet weathering. Alrighty, the gang's all here. So here they are after the first outside underframe sprayage, ready for the next step. What I do now is I'll take the wheels and clean them up. I'll use a truck truer to clean out the axle bearing points on the trucks, get them all back together. One note, I actually have a bonus car here. This just kind of popped up, so we'll go ahead and take a quick look. Yeah, I went and bought a Reading wide vision caboose to go with the... Some sharp-eyed viewers did notice a Reading C630. Well, if you got a nice modern Reading unit, you need a somewhat modern Reading caboose, right? Of course you do. So I bought this. Well, I did the same thing for this, and I had it out, and I, painted the underframe. That's fine. But it had a little bit too much overspray. Either I was careless, or it's just the limitation of this method. And I didn't like the way it looked. But what I was able to do, I took some of this MIG enamel odorless thinner that I have on hand for when I use the MIG oil brushers for various weathering. So, okay, what if I take this? I think it's a relatively gentle, or not quite as aggressive, enamel thinner as opposed to maybe pure mineral spirits or something like that. Took a little bit on a small piece of paper towel, went along and wiped the car off, and it actually cleaned it up nice. I know it's probably hard to see because I don't have the greatest light. But so now it's kind of back to its base state. There's a couple spots here that just look like kind of regular weathering, so I'm going to leave them alone. But the main splotchiness is gone. After I did that, I did take this up, and then I rinsed it and washed it very carefully in some warm soapy water to clean the thinner off. So now it's kind of back to a base state, and now what I can do is weather it, with an airbrush. A lot more control, a lot finer application, I hope. And then, of course, we'll do the sides a little bit. I'm not going to do this crazy, a little bit of dust, maybe tone down the roof a little bit and whatnot, and then get it back together, and it's ready to run behind the C630. So, I'm also noticing on some of the gray covered hoppers, they're looking a little splotchy too. So, maybe I need to be much more careful. And covered hoppers are kind of a pain anyway, because there's a lot different when you're trying to do the underframe. The boxcars, they look fine. I see no issue with them. Yeah, there's a little bit of overspray on the sides, but it doesn't look nearly as bad. Maybe because they're the darker, you know, the boxcar red, the boxcar brown type color, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't seem to be an issue, but I may need to recalibrate myself for covered hoppers and for non-dark colored cabooses. Okay, let's get back to work. And I got a lot of work to do on the trucks over there to get them cleaned up and ready to go, and then some final weather. These actually could be left the way they are. In all honesty, if you really do some real quick fleet weathering, these are fine. You wouldn't even really need to do a flat coat. You could spray bomb them with, you know, some of the, everyone loves dull coat. I don't know why. There's other stuff that's a lot less expensive that does the exact same thing. But anyway, you can, you know, flat coat them, spray bomb them, airbrush, whichever you prefer. Get the trucks on them, get them on a layout, and then pull them off later if you wanted to get, you know, fancy and do all kinds of crazy stuff and get, or if you see a real cool prototype photo at some point in time of a, you know, maybe a heavier weathered, you know, Chicago Northwestern boxcar, okay, then pull it off, bring it back, and do it at that time. But now they're all kind of subdued, so I really could do all these back on the layout, and they'd blend in a lot nicer. Now, hiding there in the back are the other two that I have not done yet, so they're going to have to be airbrushed because I don't want to pull the trucks off. All right, enough babblage. Let's get back to work here. Okay, so the trucks are all done. Wheels are cleaned. I did use the little truck truer on all the trucks, and I put the wheels back in, and on several of them, I did install resistor wheels as well. I do one per car. There's some guys that think you have to have like freaking every axle and every car done. You don't, nor do you have to have every car done, really. But so those are done, ready to go. So the next thing is to get ready to do some air brushing. So I got these four, probably do the Jeep7, the Reading caboose. Then of course there's also the two, where are they? Way over there hiding, the two covered hoppers. I don't know. I was thinking about maybe getting the shells off of these Rapidos, the FAs, and getting them done. So this will be a massive marathon airbrushing session. But that's why I like to do it. You know, that way you got a lot to do. You need to sit down, kind of get in the groove, and get things going. All right, so let's get ready and get some airbrushing going on here. Okay, it's airbrush weathering time. Woohoo! So the first victim is going to be this Reading extended vision caboose that I recently bought to go with the Alco C630. And you got to have a new caboose to go with a new engine, right? Now this is not, I don't want this to be, it's not going to be too weathered. And in this case, I mean, for boxcars and other stuff, I might not tend to go real crazy looking for a prototype photo. But for this car, I did. In the Reading rolling stock color guide, there's the car. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's not great light here, but things that I notice, besides the glare on it, roof needs to be a little bit of a darker gray, grimy blackish coat on it. The rest of the car does not look that bad. Little bit of a subdued coat on it. The ends here are pretty, you know, road grimy, so I can use my road grime color for that. Another interesting thing I noticed is the cupola windows have windshield wipers on them. That's a cool detail. I didn't realize that. Now this model does not have it, so maybe after I'm done, if I go into my box of rocks, I might have some windshield wipers I can pull out and put on there just for the fun of it. So again, for motive power and for cabooses, I will try to find a prototype photo, and that's the exact car, right? 94114. Although I notice the windows are off, but anyway, yeah, this window looks bigger than the accompanying window on the model, but okay, whatever. Although I've seen different Reading cabooses where that does look right, so I'm not about to go out and renumber it. So, all right, so we're going to do some real light coats on this. I got the paints ready to go, and then I'll just start pulling up these other guys here. They're not really not looking that bad. A little bit of road grime maybe along the bottom, just a little bit, you know, and then I'm not going to do a whole lot more. Maybe a little bit of darker on the roof, and then weather that up a little bit later on. Covered hoppers. Actually, I could put them together right now and put them back in the layout. But I'll do some of the lower, dusty, road, grimy stuff on the bottom of the cars. Get them back on. And of course, I have to do those two back there. And of course, I pulled apart some Broadway Limited some Sharks and a Rapido pair of New York Central FA units that I may do as well. So, I also got this Pennsy unit. May do him as well. Oh, and I got another Reading C630, excuse me. So, all right. Let's get the airbrush loaded up, fired up, and away we go. All right, giving us a whirl here. This is a new holder for the cell phone in my tripod, which is a little kludgy to work with, especially here at the bench. But anyway, so here's the Reading caboose. Like I said, kind of a light spray. You can kind of see it across the bottom. Just a little bit of a dusty, dirty color along here. When I first started spraying, it spritzed a little bit, so I actually came in and wiped it off, wiped it clean a little bit. And then I did do a little bit heavier on the ends and the ladders and across the end of the caboose, so I can keep this in. Again, it's not super weathered. That wasn't the intent. Now, you might be wondering about the windows. Well, they still have homebrew mascol on them. I got to pull that back off. I forgot about it, so I'm glad you guys told me. So, so that's the way it looks. Again, it's pretty light weather. A little road grime here, a little bit of road grime there, etc., etc. So that's it. And here's some of the residual. I don't know, I'm not sure how well that shows up, and I don't want to zoom because once I start zooming, this camera just is a piece of crap. But there's a little bit of, it looks like dirt, so I'm okay with it because it looks like a little bit of a, you know, dirty residue and whatnot. On the roof, I gave it a real light coat of darker color. Then came in with a Vallejo black or dark gray wash to kind of get it in the panels a little bit. So that's fine. You know, I'm okay with that. Again, this is meant to be more like fleet weathering, not a, you know, 8-hour detailed weathering project. Just get them done, get them on the layout. So that's that. Okay. So that's the Reading car. I'm still figuring out how to use this tripod with the camera. Hopefully that looks okay. Because of course the way the camera mounts, I can't really see the screen. You know, the mount's right in the center of it, so I hope it's in focus. So you want to make videos, eh? All right, so here's what I'll do. For the rest of the cars, they're back on the layout. Well, I can show this. I can take the caboose carefully down, and I did also do a little bit on the Proto Reading GP7. Again, that's just a light coat, a little bit of road grime here, you know, here around the cab. Just an overall, I'm not going to go crazy on this one. Again, just a little bit. Again, everything's kind of covered in Umbro mascol, so I'll have to get that off. Sometimes I forget that. And the headlights are done, and the cab windows are done, and the number boards are done. See a little bit. Now I might look at some prototype photos, like for a locomotive, and see, especially, I want to see, because to me the roof looks kind of boring. You know, it's just, okay. You know, where might there be a little bit more grime, dirt, you know, around. I don't think it's gonna be rusty, because the units aren't that old. Just around the, you know, around the fans, around the exhausts. Is the horn actually that color? Or should be a little tinge of rust on it? I know a lot of times the train phone receivers tend to look a little bit rough. Of course, I can't even put the camera in it. The train phone receivers tended to look, at least in some photographs I've seen, a little bit like they're starting to rust slightly. Not a bright rust, but kind of like a dull, burnt umber type color. So that's it. So that's going to be good for this. Now I'm thinking about maybe putting a satin finish on this, not a flat finish. I'm still debating because I still look at prototype photos and I'm not sure I'm hitting it just right. But, you know, a lot of the locomotives seem to look actually pretty, not too bad. Some, of course, are horrible. And the later and later you get on the Pennsy and New York Central, of course, into the mid-late 60s, they really start to look pretty bad. But, you know, late 50s, they weren't all that bad. There were some that got dirty and, you know, needed a wash and whatnot. But for the most part, they seem to take relatively good care. There's always a little bit of road grime, and the trucks are weathered. And like I said, I did do the... this is going to be converted to DCCs, but the trucks and underframe are done as well, just in kind of a road grimy type color. The fuel tank, air, you know, the air tanks and everything. So that's been done. So it, you know, it matches off fairly well. If I kind of pop this bad boy on there, it looks okay. Now, I'm not going to put it all the way down because I'm just going to take it back off again. Okay, so we're riding high here, riding high a little bit, but you can kind of see the overall look, and that's what I'm going for. Just tone it down so it's not, you know, super bright. I think all kind of all blends together. And this one's going to get the DCC conversion. I got to figure out what decoder I'm going to pop in that bad boy. And I think I have a speaker coming from Scale Sound Systems for that bad boy. All right. So that's that. All right, so let's take a pop over the layout and see the other cars, you know, out in the wild. I won't go super crazy on them, just to kind of show you what they look like over on the layout. All right, be right back. All right, I had to go back to handheld here, but I actually did put the windshield wipers on the cupola windows. They're hard to see. They came out of a KV model set, except for one. That's from a Stewart VO1000, because one of the KV models, ones which are a little bit finer, went flinging into the ether when I tried to cut it out and handle it. But there they are. They're on there. Again, no one's gonna really even probably see that. I bet one person in 1,000 even notices it. And people will say, "Well, Rob, why are you running this modern Reading caboose when you model the mid-50s?" I'm like, because I took 30 minutes and put those damn windshield wipers on it. You're going to run the caboose in the rain, and you're going to like it. So, so there we go. So they're on there. So you can see the one on the right is out of the KV models set. It's a lot finer. I'm sorry, I know I'm really wobbly here, but I'm trying to hold this as close as I can so you can see it. And the one on the left is out of the Stewart VO1000. You get those little etched metal wipers, and they look just about the right size for the cupolas. So there you go. Who'd have thunk it? A caboose with windshield wipers. All right, so like I said, now we're ready to get this on the layout. Ready to go, and you're going to run it, and you're going to like it. All right, excuse me over here on the layout. I have to go freehand. So I'll just show you these. I'll show you the 4 covered hoppers and the 4 boxcars. And, I can find the other. Yeah, okay, and some other stuff. All right, so you probably can see them there. But again, they kind of blend in, which is the whole purpose of it all. Again, this is not meant to be super detailing, weathering, hours at the workbench. It's as quick and as efficient as I can to get the cars somewhat weathered, subdued, non-shiny, on the layout and ready for operations. So that's what we did. All right, so for the covered hoppers, I'm not as happy with these. I have a little bit of overspray from the rattle cans. I'm not sure how well that shows, but I'll just kind of slowly try to pan down these. I mean, they don't look okay on the, they do look okay. They look like crap, Rob. Here on the layout, it's a little too stipply. Again, that's from the overspray from the Vallejo spray cans. Again, the covered hoppers, you got to be careful. But again, Here on the layout, from viewing distance, they look fine. And I did on the roof of these cars, based on the chemicals or whatever they're carrying, all the cars that are going to this one industry, I put a little bit of the Vallejo blue-gray wash on the top of those three. Now this one doesn't have it on this car because it doesn't normally go to that industry. So, all right. So now let's bring the next band of rabble-rousers in here. Here come the boxcars. Yay! All right, so the New York Central car. Again, just a little, there's my thumb, a little bit along the bottom. A little bit here and there randomly on the side of the car, but not a whole lot. I know the light's not great. Now for the roof on this car, what I did, I used a kind of a diluted wash of the new Vallejo Model Colors. It's called Burnt Iron. And then I came back in with washes, the normal Vallejo washes. They're dark rust and dark gray, just to kind of give it that, some texture and some variety on the roof of that car. On the B&O car, again, it's a little bit of, road grime on the bottom. Little darker shot, real slight on the roof. And then I hit the roof walk with, again, Vallejo wash. It's called Desert Dust. This kind of looks like a faded, sun-bleached type of wood. And that's a wood walkway. The other ones have steel walkways on the top, roof walks. C&W car, again, is a little bit along the bottom. Not much at all done on the roof of that car. That's just got a little bit of spray of it's the German field gray, just to kind of tone it down a little bit. And that's that. And then on the D&H car, again, not much, just a little bit along the bottom. And then for the roof on this car, I think all I did was a wash of the Vallejo dark rust. And that's it. And of course on the ends, I tend to try to do those as well. Probably won't show up here with a terrible light, but maybe a little bit of road grime with the wheels. It might spray some stuff up on the end of the car. But again, once you're on the layout and you're back at, okay, so here I am standing in the aisle. This is about how you're going to view things from. You know what? And then, you're out here operating and you're switching and you're having a good time. You're not really going to nitpick. Again, you're going to look over it all and say, looks all right. Everything looks pretty much weathered and subdued. And okay, I'm happy with that. Oh, the other car is up here. Let's do some droning over this way. This might be too dark over here to see it. That's the Central Soya car. In fact, let me just pull this bad boy up into the light. Come into the light. I'll put it here on the main. Well, I'll put it back here on the running track. There's that car. Again, this was just pure airbrushed. And again, I've got a little stip. I had some trouble with the airbrush, to be honest. What happened was, and it's a brand new Pro Convoy by CSI Krios, Mr. Hobby. And I think some paint from my paint bottles got into the nozzle and it would not spray after a little bit. I got some other stuff done and I was like, what's going on? I've only sprayed for like 5 minutes with this damn brand new airbrush. So I had to stop and I had to take the nozzle apart, take the needle out and clean everything up, and then it worked fine. So that's the one Central Soya car. Again, this goes over to the industry in Fairview. In fact, through the magic of video, let's pop over to Fairview and we'll see the other car. Okay, we've droned over to Fairview, and those Central Soya cars are delivered to, picked up here from the H.W. Niger Supply Company. They have a spot for grain, and here's the car. Oh, would help throw the turn out, you dork. Yeah, go ahead and derail it on the video. Great. All right. So that's that car. And the two cars, different numbers. I think they are different numbers. So normally I'll have one over here, and then the other one comes over on a Eugene turn. It gets dropped here. Again, very similar. I did use a little bit of a rust color there on the roof. little bit of spray. Again, these were sprayed with the trucks on because the truck bolsters are flared and I didn't want to mess them up. So that car, I'm looking at it now, I don't like the way the roof walk got a little intrusion of the colors, but maybe that would happen in real life. I don't know. Again, most people aren't really going to worry too much. So he goes back. You can see he sits at the spot for grain, which is right there. And then the other spot is for, I don't know why I'm showing this. This has nothing to do with weathering, but throwing it over there. And it's got a spot for unloading at the dock as well. So that's an earlier B&M car that I weathered up. So, okay, so now I'm going to say, like, most of the cars are weathered. A good 95% of them. So, all right. That's how we do it here at the Bennett Railroad.